Is everybody having a good day so far? Yes? Are you learning some things? Are you going to share them? And then we'll see about uniting, right? My name is Richard Stewart. I was so kindly introduced earlier today by Chad Murphy. If you were not here, I am the new Director of Education and Training for USBC, a job that I couldn't have been blessed more to have the opportunity to fulfill. Today, we're going to be talking about the art of getting things done. And with me today, I'm going to have a co-presenter. You probably all know him much better than I do, Mr. Mike Larson, the Director of Association Development.
Thanks, Richard. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Yeah, we're super excited to have Richard with us. I was fortunate enough to go through the interview process with him and get to know him a little bit beyond that, and a great guy, and we're super happy to have him and just excited to be able to provide so much to our associations now moving forward in the realm of education. So thank you, Richard.
No, my pleasure, believe me. All right, so the art of getting things done. Ladies and gentlemen, today you have been introduced to a lot of things, really. We talked about really some strategic planning. We talked about the GROW model, goal, reality, options and obstacles, the way forward. It's really a thought process, a strategic planning process. We talked about the league secretary relationship, the importance of that. We talked about revenue, utilizing revenue, growing revenue. We talked about the youth initiative. There's a lot of things that we've talked about and really presented you with ideas and takeaways that can be effectual. But I will tell you, whatever you take away from here, if you do not employ what we're going to talk about right now in the art of getting things done, those things will fade away. They will. We are going to talk about 4 disciplines today. Disciplines that have been proven to work. And I want to start off by just asking you a simple question. If you weren't here in my seminar this morning, we talked about this just very briefly. But when you have something you want to do, when we talk about setting a goal and executing on a goal, which is more burdensome? Is it creating strategy or is it executing strategy? Executing. Most MBA programs teach strategic planning tenfold more than they do how to execute on that strategy. And this is a reality across the board in corporate America, in nonprofit organizations, and sadly, in families today. They don't know how to execute on the goal of raising healthy adults. Isn't that the job of parents? To raise healthy adult citizens? And we fail. I had a strategy at home. I have 5 children. I had a strategy that...
How many?
Well, was it 5?
Oh. I'm learning as we go. Yeah, 5 children.
But I had a goal that they should have their room clean every day. That was my goal. Why is that funny? Oh, they go from, now 16 to, but believe me, I've lived through all the teens. But that was the goal, and executing on that strategy was another story. Quite another story. It took a well thought out plan. And you know how I got it done? I monetized the system. And I had a chart with a day for each of my children. If they didn't get a star on that chart for that every day that week, they didn't get the allowance. Guess what happened to my strategy? 80% fulfilled. So I monetized. I mean, you have to have an execution strategy that works. And that's what we're going to talk about. Because if you don't have a strategy that is effectual, your goals, they will fail. They will fade away. Let's take a look at a story I want you to see.
He never thought execution would be so difficult. After all, the people in his organization work for him. Nobody else is paying them. When he was in business school, they never even studied execution. They studied strategy. He's been into his plan almost a year. And if he's honest with himself, not much has really changed. So why does this always feel so much harder than it ought to? Because of the enormous amount of energy required to maintain the operation, the day job, what we call the whirlwind, will suffocate the activities needed to execute on the strategy. Think about the strategies that you've seen fail. How do they die? Do they come crashing down with a loud noise, or do they die slowly, quietly smothered by the day job? You see, his people aren't stupid or lazy or defiant. The problem is they are busy with what they call the real work. He has also made the mistake, like most creative, ambitious leaders, of trying to pursue too many goals at the same time. And as the numerous priorities become jumbled within the whirlwind, his people lose sight of where they stand. They measure everything, but the numbers are after the fact, lag measures. He feels like he's driving a car by looking out the rearview mirror. His managers spend their days either battling the whirlwind or praying over lag measures. So as people return to their day job, having lost sight of the strategy, they are clearly playing not to lose rather than playing to win. Actually, he is not a bad leader, but he is losing to the whirlwind, and it is his fault. There are rules for executing in the face of the whirlwind, and unknowingly he is ignoring those rules. But they're not ignoring him.
Has that ever happened to you? I mean, rest in peace, goal number 32. Goal number 32. You know, this may seem like a corporate-oriented video, but the reality of what is displayed here is an across-the-board reality. Corporate America, nonprofit, small, nonprofit, associations, families, individuals. The whirlwind, we'll talk about that some more. But the thing is, there is no executable plan to follow through. Either too many things going on at once, or there's no follow-through. And we are going to present to you the way, the art of getting things done. It has been proven. Sean Covey wrote a book that sold millions of copies. And it has been proven to help organizations, businesses, individuals to achieve their most important goals. Stephen Covey, the author of The 7 Habits of Highly Successful People. Have anybody read that book? A few of you? I recommend it. He has said that this is an approach that engages the hearts and minds toward a common goal unlike anything he's ever seen before. Truly a profound work. Francis Hesselbein, who is the founder of the Peter F. Drucker Foundation for Nonprofit Management, says that this delivers the essential battle cry for every organization. The disciplines allow any leader to move beyond the vision into flawless execution. This system, 4 simple disciplines, at least they're simple on paper, but they are disciplines. They have been used by massive companies, as you can see here. I don't know if the United States Navy is a company, but it's massive, have used these 4 disciplines to effect significant change in executing upon essential strategies in order to win. And what are those 4 disciplines? Well, here they are. The first one is to focus on the wildly important. Focus on the wildly important. We've talked about a number of things today. We'll be talking about a few more things tomorrow, and you're going to have really a call to action in a number of areas that we have focused on. But which one of them is the wildly important for you? I don't know. We can't answer that question. That takes a coaching session with you and your board to work through that. But what is the wildly important? And secondly, to act on lead measures. What is a lead measure? You heard in the video, he talked about a lag measure. Well, we're going to present that to you. Focus on the wildly important, act on lead measures, and then keep a compelling scoreboard. You have to see where you are at all times. And then lastly, the 4th one is to create a cadence of accountability. Now, we're going to walk through these one at a time, expound on them a little bit. But just think about the last goal that faded away for your association. Maybe it was an attempt to try and increase the number of teams in a tournament. Maybe it was to have a more focused effort on youth outreach and development. Maybe it was to really finally incorporate and stick to a center representative program. Whatever it was, and you realize if you think back, it just faded away. If you adhere to what we're going to talk about, that won't happen. If you discipline yourselves. If it's important, if it's wildly important, then it should be easy to do. What do you think?
Sounds fantastic, Richard. You know, I remember getting to meet Richard this past November or December, and he came to the office and he had a bunch of books. So here's a gentleman who's wiser than myself and has years of experience on me. And the first thing I did was see this book and said, I need this for my life. And so I picked it up and I read it. And immediately I went to him the next few weeks and said, we have to share this message. Because out of the meetings and all the associations that I visited in my years here, these are the types of issues that we run into. We have these great ideas, and new board members come in and they get excited and they want to be a part of something, but they struggle a little to figure out how to implement action and get these disciplines in place to then execute on said strategy. So why is it such a problem? You heard it in the video, the whirlwind. It's what we do every day, right? For me at work and in my life, it's the phone calls and emails that are coming in, and it's the reports that are due, and getting ready for the next jamboree and workshop and annual meeting. It's making sure I'm prepared to be able to execute and service our customers, right? The enormous amount of energy required to maintain the association's day job, servicing the customer. It suffocates us. It makes it very tough for us to focus on all those goals that we had set out to do that summer. Looking at your association world, here we have it. The day job for you, right? Processing memberships, processing averages, going through awards inventory, getting ready for tournaments, taking entries in. There's so much that you do to help service the sport. Invaluable, every piece of this. And through the art of the 4 disciplines of execution are not about removing any of these. They're not going to go away. I remember last year being on stage kind of right here in the same room, actually. Yeah, we were right here. And we talked about how for the last 100 years, associations have serviced bowling. And for the next 100 years and plus, we will continue to service bowling, doing these exact same things. So that's our whirlwind. But throughout that, we want to figure out a way to have an impact to achieve that goal, have some disciplines to accomplish a little extra. And so focusing on the wildly important is discipline number 1. A wildly important goal that can make all the difference. don't ask what's the most important. Most of us might say that whirlwind is the most important, completing all those service tasks to bowling. And you're right. But it's not what's most important. It's if all of those operations remain at their current state, what one area of change would have the greatest impact? That's what your board should be asking. So we have some rules that go with focusing on the wildly important, right? You're going to hear me say WIGs, right? Wildly important goals. WIGs. So rule number 1, no team focuses on more than 2 WIGs at the same time. We discussed, and you saw in the video, when you do too many things at once, you do all of them terribly, right? So we have to have the rule number 1 is focusing on 1 or 2. We'll challenge you later to focus on 1, but 1 to 2, because you can see here in our chart, if you focus on 11 to 20, you accomplish none of them. A few more rules here. Number 2, the battle you choose must win the war. So what does that mean? If we have a goal, our WIG is to have all of our leagues certified again next season, then our WIG shouldn't be to get awards out on a timely manner, improve our service on awards. That's part of the whirlwind, improving that service. But the battle you choose within the WIG must achieve the war of retaining all of our leagues that are existing and to becoming certified next year. So that's just an example for you. The next rule, senior leaders can veto, but not dictate. I think I heard the gentleman earlier today say, we have a dictatorship in our association. Unfortunate to hear that, and it breaks my heart a little bit, right? We're here to service bowling through passionate people. That's why you're here today. And going after your WIG, your wildly important goal, is no different. In choosing that WIG, your board collectively will help decide that. We're going to provide you some examples later that we think might be something your association would look at having as their WIG for this coming season. But really, your board will decide that, and collectively they can do that. So your leadership can help provide some direction, but as Richard will talk to later, there is nothing that will help drive the accountability unless everybody is bought in and it's a decision of the group. So that's rule number 3, and we've got one more for you. This one's probably the most important. All WIGs must have a finish line in the form of X to Y by when. You all have probably heard over the time of SMART goals: specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, time-bound. That's really simplified in X to Y by when. Thank you. So X to Y by when. Take a second, right? Everybody's got their journal with them, correct? Correct? Yes. Do you like me? Yes. Yeah. Thank you. So you've got your journal there, and we're just really happy that we can provide those, and it's been phenomenal to see those throughout the year. I think I saw 4 or 5 show up again this week from last year. So we know they're being used, and thank you for that. But take a second, right? Think through a wildly important goal for your association. Okay, we're going to take 60 seconds here. Think about your association. We're leading into the end of the spring season. You probably wrapped up some tournaments over the last month or 2, right? Yeah? You got the summer ahead of you. What would be a wildly important goal for your association? And remember rule number 4, X to Y by when. I don't see enough heads down, pens clicked. We're just brainstorming, right? Please think through. We're going to take some more time here. X to Y by when, a wildly important goal for your association. It'll be a battle that wins the war, that your association can rally behind, and we're just picking one. Remember, that's the first rule. From X to Y by when. Think through that. We're going to come back to it later. A few more seconds.
Okay, seriously now, how many of you were able to come up with a wildly important goal right now? You actually wrote it down. Raise your hand up. Okay, that's very good. Actually, that's more than I thought, because that is a thought-provoking question, is it not? I guarantee a lot of you in here, when you were asked that question, you went, I don't know, right? But it's that thing where if everything in your operations were to remain as they were, what would be the one thing that would make all of the difference? So as we think about the wildly important goal, we have to always be mindful of the whirlwind, right? That we're aware of it, we see it, so that we can step out of it and start to address this. The wildly important goal is the first discipline. The next discipline is to act on lead measures. What the heck is a lead measure? Well, we have lead and lag measures. So let me tell you the difference. I'll give you 3 examples here. A lead measure is predictive, while a lag measure is retrospective. Let's say I had a goal of having 96 teams in my tournament this year. And what happened, I had 94. That's the lag measure. That's retrospective. A lead measure is influenceable, while a lag measure is unchangeable. I found I had 94 teams. It's a lag measure. Nothing I can do about that now, is there? While a lead measure I can influence. I like this one the best. The lead measure makes the news, while a lag measure reports the news. The news, 94 teams. What makes the news? Those are your lead measures. So whatever you wrote down as a wildly important goal, what are the things that you can influence, that you can drive, that will help predict the outcome, the things that will make the news? The lead measures are actionable things that predict the outcome. Let me give you an example.
Oh, this is my favorite.
Yeah, you like this. I need to lose 15 pounds by July 4th. I'm serious. I weigh 265. Now, I was an athlete, and I weighed 265 when I was a competitive discus thrower. And let me just tell you, it was a different 265. Okay? Very different. So, what's the lag measure? Again, on the scale. Oh my God. Right? That's the lag measure. You can't influence that. It's what it is. So what are the lead measures? What are the influenceable factors? What are the things that I can do that would predict weight loss? You know what the amazing thing is? Everybody in America knows that we need to eat less and move more. Right? Everybody knows it. Everybody knows what to eat and what they shouldn't eat. Everybody knows this stuff. Do we do it? What the heck? Right? This one, exactly. So what are the lead measures? You got them. If I know how many calories I've eaten and how many calories I burned, that predicts the outcome. You know, I've only eaten 5,000 calories so far today.
How many?
5,000. And I've burned about 1,000. So very predictive, right? I eat 5,000, burn 1,000, you're gaining weight, buddy. Right? If I know that those are absolute lead measures. If I act on those lead measures and I know how many calories I can eat according to how many I burn on a daily basis, I guarantee you I will have an outcome. Those are lead measures. So for your wildly important goal, how do you identify lead measures? Did I just go back? Okay, here we go. So how do you choose or identify a lead measure? Well, first of all, you start off with the lag measure. Let's just say you wanted to recruit more volunteers this year. Let's just make it a proper WIG. And I want to recruit 5 more volunteers by August 1st, 2017. So, 5 volunteers is the lag measure. What are the lead measures? Well, here's how you come up with them. First of all, what goes wrong with not having more volunteers? What goes wrong? Well, my system's not working, so what is the system? Oh, there is none. I forgot. Maybe. I actually had an association told me they had no plan for doing that. So what goes wrong? We don't ask people. We don't post the need on social media. We don't visit the centers maybe, or when we do visit, we don't let the need be known. It's not top of mind. So what goes wrong? Communication. So again, that's what you go through. So, and then once you have that list of what goes wrong, which of them have the biggest impact? Which of them? 1, 2, 3 different things that would have the biggest impact. Well, ask, right? Hey, you seem like a passionate person in bowling. Have you ever considered being a volunteer with our local association? Well, no, I have no idea what that would even entail. Well, can we talk? Well, okay. Would that provide many opportunities? Would that be predictive of gaining a volunteer? Why does it happen? We just haven't thought about it. We've been too busy. The whirlwind has sucked us up. What can we do about it? Those questions, if you contemplate those questions, you can come up with some lead measures you can act on lead measures. So let me give you an example. We'll stick with that 5 volunteers. We know what the lag measure is, 5 volunteers, or the number of volunteers. And let me explain to you these lead measures. Where it says number of contacts submitted, what my mind was here, if I had my current volunteers, my board members, my center representatives assigned to when they go visit bowlers, leagues, centers, that they ask and try to get a contact of a person who's at least willing to discuss the option. So the number of contacts brought back to follow up on is a lead measure, is it not? Yeah. Number of flyers posted. Does it have to just be in the centers? No. I mean, this would be a perfect thing. Chamber of Commerce, if you're involved with Chamber of Commerce, would they get that out to other businesses? Sure. Local colleges and so forth, do kids get community service and credits for doing volunteer work? Yes. So number of flyers or communications posted. Social media posts. How long does a social media post last? When you post something on Facebook, what is its life? Minutes. Its life is minutes. It goes down the list, and its life is approximately 7 minutes. On Twitter, it's about 30 seconds. So if you think that you post something once on Facebook, that it lives there forever, think again, because it really doesn't. Number of social media posts. So that's just an idea of, those are things we can touch that we can influence getting more volunteers. It is acting on lead measures. So we talked about the wildly important goal, acting on lead measures. So we'll go into number 3 at this point.
And we mentioned earlier about the whirlwind, and before I get to discipline 3, and something I forgot to mention, we as an association, and Richard mentioned this earlier, that the businesses that have taken this wildly important goal, the discipline of lead and lag measures, and the other 2 disciplines we're going to get to about how they've improved their business because of that. Richard improved the cleanliness of his house with these disciplines. So it can work for anybody. But our associations, we know that we're made up of mostly volunteers. We might have one association manager who is paid. That's kind of the norm. But the whirlwind for you is everything else as a volunteer. And so we know the time is extremely valuable. And I think it's even more important as to why these disciplines that we're going over are so important. And so that whirlwind is your life beyond bowling. I mean, some of us have two lives, right? My bowling life and my other life. So we love the ones that just have the one and it's all together. But so I just want to highlight that part of it. We understand that, it's even tougher sometimes for volunteers, but, passion that you have for the game is what's going to commit you to going through these disciplines with your board. So we went through the first with the wildly important goal, acting on lead and lag measures. That's predictive. Remember, I love how you phrase it. It's making the news, not reporting the news. And so now keeping a compelling scorecard. So those lead and lag measures that Richard talked about, eating less food and working out more, if we don't capture those on a compelling visual scorecard and update them regularly, they disappear. You forget about them. How often does this happen when we go from one board meeting and we have a great idea? Hey, that's awesome. Yes, go. You board, do it. And then we come back 2 months later. Hey, board people, how was that thing we talked about that I forget what it was? Right? How often does that happen in your association? You got a great idea. So, oh man, that's going to be awesome. And then it goes board meeting after board meeting after board meeting, and we say, didn't get around to it, didn't get around to it, didn't get around to it. I hear some mumblings. I think there might be a chord I struck. Yeah, which is great. So keeping a compelling scorecard. Who here likes to keep score? You all bowl, you have to keep score. Come on.
Doesn't mean we want to.
I think Greg bowled the Open Championships this week. Said he doesn't want to keep score anymore. Yeah, so keeping a compelling scorecard. We like to play a game, right? Great teams know at every moment whether they're winning or not. Your association board needs to know if they're winning or not at all times. That's part of the discipline. Number 3. So we have our wildly important goal. We have our lead and lag measures. How do we track them? Okay, I grew up playing baseball too and bowling. I mean, my Saturdays were pretty much standard, all year round where I was. But I love keeping score. I love baseball. Go Mets. Anybody? All 6 of you. Thank you. So, but keeping score, right? So we know in a baseball game where the score is at all times. We know the lag measure of the runs. But the lead measures are the pitches and the hits and the errors. Balls and strikes, outs, those are on the scorecard too. It's not just the 94 teams at our tournament that Richard talked about in his example. It's the lead measures that build up to our wildly important goal are what keeps that visual scorecard in front of us, because we like to play games. We like to keep score. It encourages everyone to work harder. That's what the compelling scorecard is for. Now, you might be saying to yourself, hey, we have a local association office. It's out of Shirley's house. How do we keep score to where we all see it? We at the office, we have scorecards for different things that we're doing now. Number of WinLabs installs, number of merged associations we've contacted. We've called all 1,200 non-merged associations this past year, 6 months, 10 months. We have measures and tracks that we're doing because we know that those are lead measures that will get us to the finish line of having all of our associations successfully merged. It's part of our service to our associations to do that. But we have to keep score too, or else it goes into the whirlwind, right? It fades in the back. So keeping score. So how can your association do that, right? There's so many ways now digitally for us to provide a scorecard. Anybody here have an email thread that your board goes back and forth on? Your association board emails back and forth regularly? A handful. You could have a weekly scorecard through email where your lead and lag measures are reported by your directors or your committee that is in charge of said WIG, who's executing the lead and lag measures. Provide that feedback weekly to the committee chairperson, and they can send a weekly update to the board of directors. We're going to talk about accountability, but it inspires everyone to want to win. Nothing feels as good as winning. And getting things done for our associations are no different. So these are the elements of the scorecard that are super simple, right? It has to be. The scorecard has to be simple. Can't be too cluttered, can't be too confusing. Your board has to buy into it and understand it. Just like the baseball score here, right? We know balls and strikes. We know how many runs per inning. We know total hits and the lag measure of the runs. We know that. Super simple. Easily seen. We kind of just referenced it for your board of directors. It might be tough. If you have a Facebook group that your board is part of, where you communicate through there on different needs, on how things are going, you can post it in the Facebook group. Text message threads, you're able to pass information along through text message now. But there are ways for your association to utilize the scorecard, because it is discipline 3 to getting things done. Does it show lead and lag measures? I've kind of talked about this a few times here. Something else that you could even say in baseball is, you don't, so in baseball, do you practice getting more runs than the other team? As a baseball coach, how would you practice that? You don't. You practice hitting and fielding and pitching. You practice those elements because those are your lead measures. Those predict how well you play in the game. And as I mentioned right at the beginning, at a glance, can you tell if you're winning? 8-5 for the home team right here, right now. No questions about it. You know. So we're going to walk you through an example here, right? So we've referenced this as our WIG for this season. Add 5 volunteers to assist in executing this year's community outreach events by August 1 of 2017. We want to go do some, in community events, we want to provide some Bowler's Ed kits at some expos in our community. We're going to some swap meets and we're doing some Bowler's Ed kits. We've got Christmas time. Who's got a float at the county fair? Or at the county parade, excuse me. Yeah, think about trying that. Yes, we got one. Yeah, so we got to get people to help her with her float, right? We got kids dressed up in bowling pin costumes. We got to get 5 more. Oh, shoot, make it 10. We got a whole rack. All right, but we've got some community events that our association wants to tackle. And so we need those 5. So how do we create a scorecard for that? Here's an example. So John, Susan, Grant, and Robin, they have committed to being on the community outreach committee. And they have said, hey, we're gonna work on contacts submitted. We're gonna see who in our community, our bowling world, will help out with the community outreach events we want to host. They're going to help us post flyers at the bowling center, at the laundromat. They're going to post social media posts in different Facebook groups out there. I know where I live, there's a DFW bowling group on Facebook, so they're going to post them there. They're going to post them on their personal page. They're going to be active in this. And we're going to keep score. Because these are the lead measures that equate to the lag measure. That moves the needle from 1 to 5. So you can see John and Robin, really combined just one contact submitted. They haven't really gone out. Let's say this is week 2. They're kind of struggling. You can see we've color coded them there too. So you know right away where the bright spots are, right? Where's the stop sign? So John and Susan are struggling with that. They're not doing so hot. Flyers posted. Susan killing it, right? She's posting them everywhere. She's got it all, covering up every lost dog sign in the city, right? She's getting volunteers out there. Social media posts. You can see Robin loves it. Apparently Robin doesn't ever put her phone away, right? She's constantly tweeting and Facebooking because every 7 minutes that's going away. So but we can see the score. We know how each other are doing at all times. We know how we're trending towards our goal of adding 5 volunteers to assist in executing our community outreach events this year at all times. So we have the 3 disciplines so far that we've gone through. Wildly important goal, just 1. If you're feeling risky, go 2, but that's it. No more, you're not allowed. Break the rules. 2nd, lead and lag measures. 3rd, we're keeping score. And now Rich is going to talk to you about the 4th one.
I'm going to back up just a second. I want to impress upon you these 4 disciplines. You really can't say that one is more important than the other. If you don't have a wildly important goal, you haven't even entered the game. once you do have a wildly important goal, that thing that's going to make the biggest difference outside the whirlwind, then you have to know what actions you're going to take to predict that outcome. Very important, right? The scoreboard, I mean, how can you say it's more important than the wildly important goal? But if you don't have this in some manner, shape, or form, it will fade away. Everyone has to have their eyes, the commitments made on the lead measure actions, and it has to be seen week in and week out. If you don't do that, then how can you hold anyone accountable? Now, the thing about accountability, which is the fourth discipline, creating a cadence of accountability. When you hear accountability, do you see that as or do you feel as though that's a positive word? Anybody think no?
I don't like it.
I don't like it. I mean, my first gut reaction is, hold me accountable, you? I don't think so. But the thing is, accountability is a very positive thing. I mean, I've changed my mind about this because I understand the concept. Stephen Covey said that these principles is something that captures the hearts and minds of those that does this. And the reason why that is because back in the beginning, remember in one of the rules of establishing the WIG is that the leaders don't dictate, but they can veto. So when you have a whole board, a whole association bought into even defining what the wildly important goal is, then they're all bought in. Everybody was part of the process. And if everyone is bought in and also part of developing the lead measures and in the game on the scoreboard and who's going to do what by when, accountability is simply an accounting of what we've done so that we can plan to overcome those things and move the scoreboard forward. How can you hold someone accountable if they're not in the game, if they're not bought in? You can't. But everybody's in the game. So accountability it's just a no-brainer. It's just reporting on commitments. We look at John there. Now, would you think that John's not doing his job? He committed to do some things. He's on the scoreboard. If you look at that, he's got 2 reds and a yellow. Can you assume that John is just sucking at his job? Can you? No, you can't. I need to hear from John. So John, what went on the past week? Report on it. What happened? Well, maybe the whirlwind of his life just was necessary, right? Things happen. You need to learn from the successes and failures, obviously, but just think about this. There's a difference between the whirlwind catching people up, because life happens, right? The everyday happens. But also change of behavior is something. Remember what we said, that one of the things that we could do, or that is the reason why we don't get things done, is that we don't ask for this particular goal. In recruiting volunteers, we don't ask. Well, it's never front of mind. And maybe John is just it's just the way we've always done it, and I just forgot to ask. It's not front of mind. So, okay, John, that's cool. You know what? We've done it too. Look at us, all of us. If we go down the category of contacts submitted, we're all not doing that great. And we've really discovered it's because we traditionally just haven't asked people. And you know what? We need time to change that behavior. Okay, well, we're going to encourage each other. And I'm going to send you guys a group text every day that says ask. Whatever, right?
Yeah, I think, Richard, one thing to add to that is we talked earlier about, we got a board meeting in January, and our next board meeting is not till March. Without the scorecard, the leader of the committee who has said, hey, I'm keeping score here, they won't know until the next meeting. But that accountability allows that person to know, for John, hey, you're having some issues in week 2, week 3. If we get to week 8 we've already lost 6 weeks of effort that, hey, maybe we need to bring someone else into the fold to assist John. That accountability, it goes both ways. It's to really help John, but help the group because we've all committed to do it. So it allows that in-between time, especially in a volunteer structure of our boards like most of us have. We don't meet every week. We don't meet once a month in many cases. We've got plenty of whirlwind in our lives and in our bowling association. But the accountability to each other will allow us to then communicate more frequently because it is more top of mind.
Yeah, exactly. And you see the plan here is at the end of the accountability, whether it's a phone call to the group, conference call, whether we're actually meeting together, it doesn't matter. As long as it happens, the goal is to clear the path. Does John need some help, or does he just need to be reminded? What about everybody else? Whatever they reported, then how can we as a group clear the path for one another? And whatever that is, we're all going to now make new commitments based on that. And guess what? It's going to move the needle forward to whatever degree. Does that make sense? I mean, this is a simple thing. What is the wildly important? What are the lead measures? Creating a compelling scoreboard. You know what? Just creating a scoreboard that works. And creating the cadence of accountability. It's all very easy on paper, but it does take discipline. But if it is a wildly important goal, and these disciplines are followed through with, I guarantee you will have success. I guarantee it. What level of success? I don't know, but you will have success. The needle will be moved. I guarantee it. Now, we've talked about the 4. So what we want to do is Mike is going to go through some example WIGs, wildly important goals, that we've constructed that we think may be relevant for you, using the 4 disciplines. All right, so let's take a look at those.
All right, before we get going, I need everybody to stand up real quick.
Can I sit down while they stand?
All right, yeah. Phyllis says, you said real quick. Yeah, that's all we wanted. Thank you. Just, we know that we're getting towards the end of the day, and we need a little life here. And we're going to go through some examples, and I want to get you guys excited about it. So just a quick refresher, stand up.
Oh, I would have made you jump
we can sit
or
again.
Something, you know.
Yeah. I'm winning the hearts and minds one step at a time, right? Yeah. So let's go through some WIGs here real quick, right? We got a couple for you. And as mentioned in the wildly important goal section, this isn't for us to determine. You know, your association, your board will decide what's the most important, not what's the most important, but if the whirlwind stays the same, what will have the most impact? Your board will choose that. So here's an example. We're going to increase the number of certified leagues from 80 to 83 in the 17-18 season. Some of us might be saying, man, oof. You know what? It might be wildly important. If you went to the Why Certify seminar this morning, this afternoon after lunch, or you're attending tomorrow, think of this example. How can we do that? We haven't increased in 10 years. How could we do that? We have lead measures that are predictors of that. We want to make the news, not report the news. So can we practice talking to leagues? Can we do role plays within our association? Having our volunteers learn about how to speak to members about the value of membership. Being confident and comfortable, proud in the services your association provides. So when you're talking to leagues, it's not about trying to convince them. It's getting them to want to play on your team because your team's the best. Personal visits and communications with certified and non-certified league secretaries and managers. Is that a lead measure to know when our leagues are starting, whether certified or not? We can't go talk to them if we don't know when they happen. Another lead measure that will help predict whether or not we increase certified leagues next year. And personal visits and interactions with certified and non-certified league bowlers. Who here's leagues have completely wrapped up for the season in their towns? Yeah? Some of you, all the Midwest are like, yeah, it's getting warm out. We're quitting, right? I still got a month left. Go figure. So, but if you still have leagues that are continuing, reach out to those leagues. Go visit the league secretary, the president next week when you get home. See how they're doing. Check in on their leagues. Will that help build the potential for a league secretary to be more of a raving fan of your associations? And then when we talk about certification next year, we don't even talk about it because it's, of course, we're going to certify. It doesn't even become a question. Those are lead measures to predict whether or not we have more leagues next year. They're not lag measures. They are the do, the action. The next example, WIG number 2, increased youth participation by 15% by the beginning of the 18-19 season. This one's a little further out. We're going to take a year. And what can we do as a youth committee, right? We've got a youth chair who's passionate about youth bowling like they all are. We couldn't do it without him. We love every single one of them. And they said, you know what? We're going to take these tools that Mike and Richard talked about today, and we're going to act on them. Let's have that WIG, our wildly important goal. So what do we need to do? We need to call and visit local schools. We need to have an outreach plan, contacting the IBC youth team to gather information and then provide it to us too. Can we get some bowler's ed kits from them? Can we get some in-school bowling material to provide? If you were in George and, I get the Daves mixed up now. George and David Prang's workshop just before this, you know, I have PTA and PTO meetings up here. Your Chamber of Commerce probably has businesses who have kids in them, right? They have children, they're business owners. That's an example of getting involved with the chamber, but weaving it into our lead measure of obtaining more youth members next year. Number of community events. I talked about it earlier with our volunteers. What if we went out to the swap meet and that parade and the carnival and the trade shows and promoted youth bowling? Where are my folks from South Dakota? All right. Where are my folks from South Dakota? All right, they're right, yeah, thank you. There was a trade show done this past 2 months ago or so. I saw it on Facebook, and they had bowler's ed kits at this youth sports festival. Awesome. What better way when they've got hundreds and hundreds of kids in South Dakota who are rolling through this trade show to promote bowling? Who's not going to stop by the booth for bowling? And so attending those community events over the next year, we're going to commit to the number of those as our lead measure, and the number of centers handing out youth marketing materials. I'll never forget, I'm going to go way back on a little story here. I remember being my first trip as a regional manager, and I was in Orange County, California. Nancy and Phyllis, I think, were there. So I'm going a couple years back, and I remember being at Fountain Bowl, and we were having our first meeting, and I was there probably an hour and a half before the meeting, right? I'm super nervous. First time ever meeting everybody, and from Southern California, and they'll tell you the best bowlers come from California. Yeah, I learned all I needed to know in that first trip. So I'm before the meeting, and I'm prepping, and I'm watching, and there's some people bowling, and they're practicing. Barry Asher, who Hall of Fame bowler, and Tom Baker, Mark Baker, right? They're giving lessons, right? They got 20, 30 people. They're giving individual lessons out, and I'm like, man, what an opportunity to these are probably our tournament bowlers. What if we came and gave them tournament flyers, right? And then I see a birthday party setting up on lanes 15, 16, and 17, 18. And I'm like, man, these are our kids that are coming in to bowl possibly for the first time. What can we give them so they learn about youth bowling and the scholarship opportunities and the participation that all our kids have in our sport? What materials could our bowling centers help provide through birthday parties? Could we provide them material that they would put in the goodie bags that are going to go home with those kids? Just an idea, but it's a lead measure in this instance. A lead measure that would then predict in future years if more kids get excited about bowling and come play another time and become your member, right? So another example for a wildly important goal. And last one, we want to launch an email marketing and communication campaign, August 1 of 17. How do we do that? Sounds daunting, right? But we, as a committee, collectively decide on what measures will allow us to execute this plan. We do this together. All of a sudden, we build that accountability. We build a scorecard. to cover getting vendor proposals to be submitted, whether it's, hey, we need an email blast campaign to communicate with our members electronically. So let's see if MailChimp or Constant Contact or, ExactTarget, if that's the way to go, we need to check that. And by the way, as a nonprofit, you usually get them cheaper as well. Number of design ideas obtained from other associations. Who here's got a communications plan? Who uses an email service? A handful of us. So I'm going to network at the convention this year over the next 48 hours, and I'm going to talk to other associations and find out who's using what. I'm helping you out with some lead measures here, but we have opportunity right in front of us to do some of these. Obtain an email list from your WinLabs program or from your regional manager. Who here's had a membership database emailed to them from our team? Quite a few hands. Yeah. We really should get everybody's. We're happy to help provide that if getting it out of WinLabs is a little tough. But there's steps in place. As you can see, these are lead measures to get to that end goal of having that communication and marketing plan in place. So we've walked you through the 4 disciplines today, right? The wildly important goal. Well, we talked about the whirlwind first, right? We know we're there, servicing the customer. Vastly important. We can't not do that. That needs to continue at its utmost, with the utmost importance. But if we want to focus on that one goal, wildly important goal. Number 2, act on lead and lag measures. Number 3, have a scorecard. We got to keep score. We got to see where we stand in the game. As Richard mentioned earlier, we got to be in the game to want to play, and then we want to win. And 4, cadence of accountability, right? So just take a sec. We have how many associations present in this room, you think? I'd guess 50 to 100. What if everybody in this room went back to their board of directors and said, we're committing to one WIG, one wildly important goal this summer to execute next year? What would happen? What kind of an impact would that have on our sport? A pretty good one. What if every association that wasn't here, we were able to provide these tools and they were able to, you were able to reach out to them, call them and tell them, hey, we got this great thing that we executed in the fall of 2017 after Mike and Richard blew the doors off at convention. I tell you what, woo! It's been phenomenal. It's helped our association achieve. What if we told that to our nearby association who didn't come to convention? What kind of impact could that have on our sport? Pretty strong one. So think about these disciplines at your board meetings over the summer, creating that wildly important goal, lead and lag measures, understanding the difference between the two. Let's make the news, not report it. The scorecard and the cadence of accountability.
Ladies and gentlemen, I will tell you what would happen if what Mike said became a reality. We would see a monumental change in bowling. If every one of these associations here and across the board picked that one wildly important goal and followed through and acted on it, you couple all of those things together, and over time, we would see a monumental change in bowling. You would. Do you believe me? Yes. So what are we waiting for? You know, at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, we all have to deal and suffer from 2 kinds of pain. Listen to me now. At the end of the day, we must all suffer from 2 kinds of pain. The pain of discipline and the pain of regret. Do you believe that? You know what the difference is between the 2? Discipline weighs ounces, while regret weighs tons. And if we would just redeem the time, we would make a monumental change in your association in bowling. And that's the truth. Do you believe me? Well, God bless you and have a good evening.
Thank you.